Well, last Thursday, 48-year-old Sunshine Stewart of Tennant Harbor was found dead in Union after Maine State Police say she went for an evening paddleboard ride. Officials say they have determined the cause of death is a homicide. No arrests have been made. Keenan Mills and Michaela Hawthorne have more.
It's been several days since officials found the body of Sunny Stewart, who was paddleboarding on Crawford Pond in Union and staying at Micmac Cove, and the questions surrounding the small town of less than 3,000 have yet to be answered. Maine State Police say that Stewart left the campground at around 6 p.m. on Wednesday, July 2nd. The owner of the Micmac Cove family campground, Catherine Lunt, said she was the one who contacted police, alerting them that Stewart had been missing. Stewart's body was found by officials early Thursday morning near 100 Acre Island in the pond. An autopsy performed later that day would claim the cause of death to be a homicide. Lunt tells us that since Thursday, law enforcement has been in and out of the property. In a statement from a friend of Stewart's, Stacy Yandell said Sunny was a force of nature, fierce, bold, and unapologetically alive. She grabbed life with both hands and dared it to keep up. Her laugh was contagious, her spirit unstoppable. She made you feel braver just by standing beside her. Staff of the campground asked for no footage of the property to be taken at this time, as they are still hosting campers. Also adding that there is no public access at any point to Crawford Pond. We reached out to the town office of Union, but they are waiting to comment on the situation until they learn more from authorities. State Police is asking for anybody who may have seen Stewart paddleboarding or might know anything about the case to reach out. Keenan Mills, WABI News, Union.